Hey everybody, thank you for joining today. My name is Shane. I run the events over at 10 Capital Network. We have another great, awesome event for you today with Founder Advisors, and it's go-to market with customer journey mapping. At this point, I want to invite Hall up. Oh, there he is, ready to go. Throughout the session, if you have any questions in the audience, please go ahead and put those in our chat box. I'm going to go ahead and unlock that now for y'all. And please don't forget to answer the polls at the end of each of our presentations today. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Hall to get things started. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Great. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Before we kick into our main presentation, I want to invite Sean Dwyer to come up and talk about his work at Baylor in the area of entrepreneurship. Sean, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Hall. Yeah, I will share my screen right now. Let's see. Here we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Dwyer. I am a PhD student at Baylor University, and I'm conducting a dissertation study on the topic of purpose and entrepreneurship. And would like to invite you all to contribute to this study. I'd be glad to share insights from the study and have meaningful conversations with you related to purpose. If you would like to sign up, you're more than welcome to use this QR code here or respond to the question and answer that will about to pop up shortly. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Great, Sean. Thanks for that. Those who want to join and learn more about that survey, please select the poll question there, and we'll put you in touch with them. With that, we'll go and move to our presentation today. We have with us Stephen Williams, Roger Toennis, and Mitchell Posada of Founder Advisors, and we're going to talk about go-to-market with journey mapping. These guys are very experienced with helping people go to market and become successful. As many investors know, you really want a good launch into the market with the product to get a good response with it. Every startup founder knows there's just 1,000 things that need to be done. So with that, let's bring this team up and have them talk about how you do this and how you can be successful. With that, I'll go and pass it over to you guys.
Thanks, Hall.
There you go.
Right. Appreciate it very much. And so let me jump into right away. And you talked go-to-market, but sometimes I've even changed the slide here. I like to call it get-to-market because you can start going somewhere, but it's really about landing into that market. That's an important thing. So, all right, so let's start talking about what it means to get to that market, right? Because
hey, Raj, quick intro for you would be probably good for these folks.
Oh, good. That's a good
please.
point. Yeah, real quick. My name is Roger Toennis, and I am the co-founder of Founder Advisors. And I'm a multi-time startup founder. I've done 5 startups and had a couple exits. And I'm an electrical engineer by background. And so I've worked in a lot of different technology companies. So thanks for that, Steve. So let's talk about startups. And I think the big boogeyman that we all worry about, obviously, is the failure rate. And you ask yourself, well, why do startups fail at this rate? And 9 out of 10, 90% would be great, but it's actually more than 90%. And then you start looking into it. And a lot of people have done this over the years and ask, why do startups fail? And if you look at this pie chart here, what you see is the number one is something that many years ago, Mark Andreessen wrote a column about, which is product market fit. And we talk about that. Well, why don't startups discover product market fit? What's the problem there? Why, and nobody really goes into that, right? And then these other parts of the pie chart really source out of that, if you ask me. So if you look at this, marketing problems, team problems, finance problems, operations problems, I'm going to claim to you that all of those things are sourced out of what I say is the real reason that startups fail. And that reason is they fail because they don't know their customers well enough, right? They don't understand these customers that they hope to have them pay for their products. And then they also don't understand if they're pre-revenue, those customers they hope someday will pay for their products, right? That's the core of it. And you say, well, it can't be that simple, Roger, right? Is it that simple? I have an idea of who my customers are. I have a fantastic technology. I have a great idea. And what I find again and again and again with this founder teams that I advise, both when I was at Gartner and now that I'm at with Founder Advisors, is many people think they know their customer. When I find out, well, have you done interviews? And do you understand the customer? Do you know their pain points? Do you know their care-abouts? Do you understand how they pay for things? And the answers to most of these questions is they kind of have this look on their face. I don't think I do. And so that's where there's an opportunity to solve that problem. right? And what we say is customer journey mapping, and a lot of people may have heard of this. It's not something completely new, but it's something that startups don't pay enough attention to, in my opinion. And that's why we say, you need to get your customer journey maps in place. It's not just knowing who your customer is, it's knowing how your customers get to where you're at. They get to the point where they're buying your product and buying it continuously if it's a subscription-based thing, or also buying it again and again, right? So we've all heard the MVP, the minimum viable product, right? But I'm going to introduce something new to you today, potentially new to you today, which I call the earliest lovable product, right? So the earliest lovable product is a product that your earliest customer persona will buy. So I'm not talking about the ideal customer persona, because that's going to change for you as a startup, especially. And it changes even for big companies. And when I advise big companies, when I was at Gartner, I would say, do you know your current customer persona? What was your previous customer persona? What's your next customer persona, right? Because this is a moving target. And because it's a moving target, your earliest customer persona as a startup, especially if you're pre-seed or pre-revenue, is not going to be most of your customer base when and if you exit your startup. You're going to you talk about being agile. We talk about being agile when we're writing software. Fantastic. You got to be agile when you're bringing your product to market. And you don't just say, okay, I know who my customer is and I start selling and that's all I need to know. Build it and they will come. The field of dreams approach to startups, right? It's great to have dreams, but you will not build it and they will come. You've got to go get them. And that's why our bold claim is around this idea that startups fail, is if you don't keep a detailed and continuously updated set of customer journey maps, you're going to struggle and you're not going to have this boost. And I call it the 10X boost, right? Of getting to your customers, generating revenue, and then getting to that profitable exit, right? Perhaps this is the thing to really focus on. And so what we do at Founder Advisors is we counsel startup founders in really getting into this conversation, right? You got to know what your earliest lovable product concept is. And all of the founders have something that they love. Hey, look at my cool product. Look at my cool technology, right? But that needs polish. And the reason it needs polish is in many times it's got too many facets. It's got too many features. It's got too many value propositions to too many different customer personas, right? So once you polish that down to that really razor sharp, the tip of the spear of your technology and your concept, that's where then we can start to detail what your earliest customer persona looks like. We can go and start to help you interview those customer personas to focus your development, to focus what you're offering into the market. Then we build out, flesh out your get to ECP journey maps, I call it, get to ECP. And then document the pain points, the moments of truth, and other specific aspects of the journey to you, the journey to your product, right? It's not just your journey to them, it's their journey to you, right? So that's where we document that. And then ultimately this rolls into an acceleration of early revenue or acceleration of revenue. This works with Series B, C, D, E startups as well, right? Because this is a never-ending process. And what I'm going to show you right now on this slide, it's a bit of an eye chart, but what this is what we call the startup journey map. And this is from left to right, generally the formation of the mission, vision, strategy, and the product, getting into validation and traction, growth, and then heading towards your exit. And what I've circled here is a lot of the things across this, all the way in the first part of this, the things that you need to go deep in terms of customer journey maps, right? Around the earliest lovable product, the earliest customer persona pair on the left side. And then really it sticks with you throughout this. And you've got to be like I said earlier, you got to be constantly updating and detailing what those journey maps look like. And as you start to get customers, you go talk to them and you say, what are your moments of truth? What are your pain points? Are your pain points changing because of the product that we've brought to you? Right? This is relationship management, right? Everyone's heard of a CRM, customer relationship management. Well, that's not just software. That's the people that are bringing the product. You have to have a relationship with your customer, not just have them in your CRM. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and my partner Steve is going to show you a piece of software that we use and that creates some of the journey maps here. So I'm going to stop sharing. Steve, are you ready to go here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, let me share my screen. Let me know, Roger, when you can see that, and I'll pull it up. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes,
Roger?
we can.
Perfect. So a quick intro for myself. I've actually known Roger now for close to a bit over 20 years. Prior to startup days, we both were basically product leads at Avaya. Since then, I think I've started several consultant groups, and I've done 8 startups. So I've done many. A few of those have succeeded, and as any entrepreneur knows, some of them fail. That's the way it rolls, and but every one of them I've learned and can continue to learn how to try to be more successful. And what I'm going to show you here today is not only what Roger shared with you, which is, hey, get to that early lovable product, early customer persona, but how do you do that? We actually provide a product to give you that structure. And believe it or not, this was a product that me and my team built like 4 startups ago. We sold this to a very large health company, and they continue to use it, and I continue to use it now, more specifically with Founders. So I'm going to log in here. So it is a full-fledged product that we have on the market, and I'm just going to very briefly go with you here. The point I'm trying to make here is not only do we provide you with assistance in going to market, but the structure around for which you go to market in a product. It's not just us talking. We provide also a tool which helps you understand exactly what Roger just showed you is this map. And I'm not going to get in the details of using the map, but I want to make sure everybody understands what I call high-level customer experience and customer journey mapping principles. We have a concept called moment of truth and a concept called pain point. All these are which are graphically displayed as a red or a green on our customer journey software. This product not only is used by startups and founders, but also used by several very large companies. But bottom line is it provides you a means of really understanding not only how to go to market, but really makes you refine and think about your products, your service set, whatever you may be going to market with. And I'm going to briefly go over the concept. As you can see here, is it large enough so you can see the screen, Roger, and you can read some of the things? Right, I need to blow it up. We good?
Yeah, I think maybe we could blow it up a little bit, but I'm on a laptop, but it seems fine to me.
Okay. So move this out of the way. I will blow this up a little bit. Okay. So as you can see here, what we have is a concept of inspire to purchase, which moves into early engagement. And I'm just going to have to get rid of the picture here. And as you can see, moves then into increased value commitment, deliver the promise, and then leave in return. Conceptually, no matter if you're building a service or a product, you're going to move through these customer phases, okay? And I'm going to specifically focus around inspire to purchase because that's really about go-to-market's about. As you can see here, we have an aware and an interest phase. We as a team help you begin mapping each of these components out. And what you're seeing here is an actual SaaS product. As a matter of fact, CFN Insight, I use this tool as I built this product 10 years ago, and it's only become more refined since then. So we will help you get through this inspire to purchase, which is understanding that customer persona, understanding your most important customer persona, and what really is your most lovable product. So fundamentally, if we look at this, we have these phases and we have touch points. These are the places that your customer touches you. So we really begin to focus in on outside in, not inside out. I can tell you now I've been, I think, a total of 8, maybe even 9 startups now. And startup founders and entrepreneurs really like to think of products. They should really be thinking about customers and how customers buy products. And that is what we do and help you do with this product and with our team. So again, if you would like to hear more, there's information at the end of the slides. Just understand that not only do we help you get through this, but there's also software to help you guide this and refine along the way. So that's my point. Roger, I'm going to hand it back to you and stop my share.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'll jump back into sharing. And as Steve said, that's what we do. Well, what's the framework that we do this in? We like to do it in what we call a journey mapping sprint, right? Because we don't want founders have, you know, a lot to work on, and we don't want them to two things. We don't want them to like go off and have to spend a bunch of time with us, you know, a full week, 40 hours straight with us. Instead, what we like to do is work with the founders, give them some homework after each week. And what you can see here is the layout of our customer journey mapping sprint. So, you know, it's an 8-week sprint, and it's literally only an hour a week. And there's some homework we give people beforehand to get prepared, so they're ready to start doing that. And then between each session, we give homework, and then we check in for an hour each time. And by the end of this, we get to the point where the startups are feeling like, hey, I really know, number one, who my earliest what my earliest lovable product will be, but only you don't know that lovable product until you have the context of who is the customer that's going to love that product and why they're going to love that product, right? And again, sometimes I see startup founders that are just so excited about the 16 different things that the tech can do, and the 27 different markets that we're going to go into, and you know, we're going to be a unicorn in all these different markets. And you know, excitement's great, but focus is the key. And that's what we try to do, is focus the excitement of the startup into that initial ELP ECP pair, right? And by the end of this sprint, we're basically they've started to do their interviews with earliest customer personas. And sometimes it's not the same, the customer persona they think. Often it's not the case. Often, you know, we hear about pivots. Often you have to pivot, and a lot of times founders think inside out, oh, I have to change my product. When the reality is to get, you know, change my product to get to this customer I think I'm going after. Instead, you do a customer pivot. And I'm going to, as Steve said, outside in, not inside out. Right. And so that's what we do is we walk our startups through this. And you know, I talked about homework. Here are the key questions that we give startups to think about. And whether startups are going to come work with us or not, we like to tell them about this to change their thinking. What is your earliest lovable product? Who is going to love that? Who's the earliest customer persona that's going to love that product, and why? You know, why would they choose your ELP? And then what is the fastest way to get your ECPs to buy your ELP, right? And it's kind of shocking how simple some of these things start to be. And in some ways that the founders are a little bit like, oh, I thought this was really, I was enjoying the complexity. I was enjoying how many different ways that this is. You know, we're very smart people as founders often, and we get enamored of trying to do too much for too many people. And what we do is we focus them on the simplicity, right? And so for founders, what we do is, hey, if you want to do this, you can get a free strategy session with Steve and or me. And we talk about this. We answer their questions and say, hey, is this really for you, to get a ECP ELP? And that's us. That's Founder Advisors, and that's our get to market with customer journey mapping.
Great. Thanks, Roger. We had some questions come in from the chat box. And the first one is, you mentioned at the beginning that startups fail, but the question was, fail in what time period? What time period are you envisioning here solving this for?
And this is going to sound out of character based on what I just said, but all of the above. And what Steve just said is, you know, I said at the top, this is a continuous thing. It's not just that, okay, I've finished this homework and I'm done. This is the homework you're doing every day, every week, every month, every year, until you exit this startup. And then you might be doing it if they bring you in to the company that acquires you, and you're going to have to keep doing it, right? I've done customer journey maps with billion-dollar companies that are Fortune 500, and I've done it with startups, right? So this is a discipline that all companies should be doing.
Great. The next question is how do you identify the earliest lovable product? How much of that is product specs versus finding the right user?
I think of it as it's almost like the if you're familiar with the Ouroboros symbol, it's like the snake eating its own tail, right? it's a back and forth, right? It's a dynamic conversation between, I hypothesize that this part of the tech and the product that I'm offering is going to be loved by this kind of customer. And what we try to do is to keep that particular value proposition as simple as possible, right? Not 27 things that this customer persona is. So it's almost like matchmaking between, and so you got to go discover that. You got to bring the things that you can do with your tech to the kinds of customers you think could use that tech. And then it's a conversation, and then you polish it in, right? And so it's not earliest lovable product first or earliest customer persona first. It's kind of a dynamic, right? You're matchmaking between value proposition and value delivered. If that
in
makes
addition, just to add, Roger, there's also another component which I find very interesting, is oftentimes, at least early founders, don't want to put in the work to really prioritize what customer persona is really going to drive revenue, right? And you really then have to prioritize. Roger is saying it's the snake eating the tail, which is absolutely true. But then once you work through that, you really need to understand, because as any entrepreneur knows and founder, as soon as you start making money, things get easier, right? And it's also a matter of prioritizing. You may find that, hey, I have a ELP, a most early lovable product for 3 or 4 people, but what are more likely to pay me? So it's in addition to what you're doing with your team from the outside in, you're also looking at, all right, what is truly going to drive revenue and accelerate revenue? So I just wanted to add that fact in there too as well.
All right. So my next question is, are you applying this at the minimum viable product level or at the first version of a production level product? Where do you start to implement this?
I mean, it should be what we call MVP, right? It's before, I mean, what's the value, what's the pain points that you perceive that you're going to go to some customers with this tech, right? Okay, go learn about those customers, go do interviews, really learn how, their value proposition. And the other thing people need to learn is, what are their budgets? What do they pay for? How do they pay for things? And how much do they pay for things? Right? Too often we just bring tech to the world and we think, oh, well, somebody will pay for it. Because, we don't like finance because we're engineers or we're software, or we're scientists. So as early as possible, the minute you're thinking about it, you should be thinking about your earliest customer persona. And yes, MVP is, okay, we actually have a working product that we can put in front of somebody. So yeah, before, and then as I said, it keeps going, right? You got to keep cycling back through this continuously, right? It's not every day or every week, but, every quarter, are we continuing to meet? What are we learning? How can we be agile in our get to market based on what we've learned from our, one of the statements that Lord Acton made is no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. All right. Now we don't want to think of our customers as the enemy, but that's why we got to keep continuously changing our plan. So.
Great. Next question is, how much does this service cost?
So we charge a one-time fee for the 8-week sprint, and obviously we can either expand or compress that. And it's $29.50 one-time fee, and we do have a payment plan for startups depending on where they're at.
And how best for them to get in touch with you? And perhaps we can put that in the chat box there, a contact email or phone number.
Yeah, let me. So here's the email. It's steve@founderadvisors.tech. TECH, or Roger@founderadvisors.tech, and we are www.founderadvisors.tech. You can reach us there, but just shoot us an email if you want to hear more. And we're really excited about this because the startups we've already worked with are like, wow, oh, that's where the tip of the spear is at.
Great. We'll take a poll here. Those who are interested, please answer the poll itself. My last question before we jump to our next group is, what is the biggest mistake you find startup founders making in the get to market phase of the campaign?
Just completely skimming over, talking to the customers you think you're going to have, right? It really is this field of dreams problem, the build it and they will come. That's the number one thing. 99.999% of startup founders have the field of dreams problem.
Great. And we did have another question, if we can squeeze it in. How does this compare to the NSF, National Science Foundation process?
I'm not completely familiar with NSF Foundation, so if that person who asked that wants to reach out to me and we can talk through it, we could do that. Love to talk about that.
Great.
I'm the same as Raj. I'm not familiar with NSF process. So.
I'm assuming NSF stands for National Science Foundation. I know a number of the government agencies have granting grants, and they also have some education content that goes with it. So as we finish with this, if you guys want to pick up the discussion in the chat box, you're welcome to ping them back and see if we can get more clarity on that. And if there are any other questions that come up, check out the chat box as well. But with that, thank you guys for coming on today. Appreciate the great information. And we'll now move to our first presenter. We have with us coming today, SEDEX Technologies, Nicholas Kuhn. Nicholas, if you could turn on your camera and your video. Thank you for joining us. And let's go ahead and have you kick off first.
Hey, Hall, thank you very much. Look forward to chatting with all of you. And just show you my screen here.
Ready to go.
I am the CEO of SEDEX Technologies. We're a company based in Pittsburgh. And I'm going to just talk to you about 15 minutes about our technology. We are a company that has leveraged the biology of the gecko to create a completely new platform for gripping technology in consumer products. Just like you can see this gecko here hanging from this string from its toe, our company has leveraged $5 million worth of grants and significant equity investment to create technology that essentially mimics the gecko. As I said, we're based in Pittsburgh. Right now we're at a $4 million run rate. We're growing quickly, very deep IP portfolio, and we're currently in the process of raising a $1 million equity round. So what the products we make solve a customer problem that is a universal need for improved comfort and performance in products that we use every day. And you could put them in the wearables category. So things that we try to grip with either on our face or with our hands. And overall, we see this as a $42 billion or $43 billion addressable market. The key areas that we provide solutions for are iframes for eyeglasses, earbuds. There's 1 billion iframes globally, 300 million earbuds, 500 million gaming consoles, and 2 billion bikes, rackets, and bats, all of which we provide a solution for. So what we do is we make a material that has a very unique ability to grip to skin in wet and oily conditions. So what you see here is our microstructures. They look like little mushrooms that are in our material, moving against synthetic skin. And essentially, we can provide almost a 3-fold improvement in coefficient of friction in gripping to skin with our products. So we launched our first product early in 2020. Right before COVID, these were nose pads for eyeglasses. We now have over 20 SKUs in that space of different thicknesses and colors. We have a whole line of products for Apple AirPod and 11 SKUs in the gaming space. So low rise, mid rise, high rise thumbstick grips, and we'll soon be launching sports grips. So our revenue has grown dramatically over the last 3 years as we continue to add to our product selection, all based on this same core technology. I'm going to just play a little video for you.
Finally, your glasses are comfortable. Natural evolution gave the gecko its amazingly strong grip. Our multi-patented SEDEX technology duplicates the microstructured fibers on a gecko's foot for a revolutionary new way to keep your glasses comfortably and securely in place. Like a gecko's foot, the thousands of anti-slip fibers on each SEDEX nose pad rest comfortably on the skin surface for a secure, relaxed, comfortable fit, even on wet or oily skin. Stay in control with the comfort, support, and zero slip adhesion of SEDEX nose pads, inspired by nature, perfected by science. Order yours today.
So as I said, we've been growing very quickly. You can see our revenue growth here over the last 3 years. So the blue is our U.S. sales. So we're on Amazon in the U.S. We are Amazon in Europe, in the UK, and the rest of Europe. That's what the gray is. We're also launched in Japan, and we recently launched in China. So we've managed to take 45% market share in this segment on Amazon in a 3-year period. So we've had phenomenal success with this technology. Basically, there's a lot of competitors in this space, specifically in the nose pad segment. As I said, we've taken 45% share, and that's because we deliver a product that works well, is very comfortable. It's made in the USA. It has a technology story, Carnegie Mellon University spin out, and we're leveraging that success as we go after these other market segments that I talked about earlier in the earbud and gaming, and soon in sports scripts. We have amazing reviews for our products. And I invite you to look us up on Amazon or go to our setxscript.com website. So growth in the future is going to come from reaching 800 million active users on Tmall in China. We have a range of new products we will continue to launch. We're starting to develop B2B to C relationships with companies that are incorporating our technology into their product offerings. And we're going now launching retail. So we are executing contracts in regional retail players. We'll be starting there first, and then we'll expand from there into a national basis. Our team is interesting. We're made up of a lot of advanced material technology guys, as well as people with consumer products experience selling products on e-commerce, both in US and Europe. Our marketing team is led by Carlos Tribino, who did the Tumi rebranding. Dina Gazarian is on our board. She was VP of Sales at Monster. So we have really good consumer products expertise also as part of the team. So we're really merging those two areas together. As I said, we manufacture in Pittsburgh. We have a 6,000 square foot facility, and we have suppliers all in the US, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and California. And, we definitely benefit from the made in the USA aspect of our products. These are our summary financials. So we see ourselves growing to about a $24 million company within 4 years. And the mix, as you can see here in this graph on the right, between e-commerce and both the US and globally, and then brick and mortar grows over time as we penetrate further and further. We have excellent margins. We're on around 75 to 85% gross margins on our products. And our expectation is that we will exit within 2 to 3 years. Typical multiples for a consumer products company are 1 to 2x revenue. So we think we'll be able to sell this company in the order of 20 to 30 million. And the valuation on our deal is $5 million pre-money. So we think investors will be able to get a 5x multiple on this deal, and we're setting it up for that. Last thing I'll mention is comparable. So here are some other brands that were acquired that are in our space. For example, Marucci Sports acquired Lizard Skins for $50 million. Lizard Skins make scripts for baseball bats. ACCO Brands acquired PowerA, which is a company that makes gaming accessories at 2x revenue and 8 times EBITDA for $340 million. So anyways, you get a feel. Logitech acquired Mevo, which makes consumer electronics accessories for $50 million. To get a feel for the level of the acquisitions in this space. So the numbers that we're talking about are very reasonable. So I'm going to end there. These are just some magazines that have done stories on our technology, and we'll open it up for questions.
Great, Nick. Good presentation. Roger, what's your first question there?
Yeah, great stuff, Nick. First question that comes to mind is, with this investment, what are the things that it's going to allow you to do to go from that negative EBITDA to positive by next year? And
Well,
what are the
to
key?
be honest, we're right on the edge of positive EBITDA today.
Mhm.
So the key drivers will be, continuing to stay on the growth track we're on. So, this month we did 375,000 in revenue in the month of August. So every month is bigger than the last. So the flywheel is spinning. And then other big drivers of new revenue is going into retail. I think that we're expecting some significant bumps in revenue from retail, and those will be allowing us to hit cash flow break even next year.
So use of funds, is there any? It's just kind of keep spinning the momentum with the kind of,
here's the use of funds. I mean, I didn't go into that during the presentation, but it's primarily continued about 100,000 in new marketing investment, and then 150,000 in retail sales acceleration. I mean, we're at a stage as a company where we really need to start to turn up the heat on the sales and marketing side. Our operations are up and running, and so the investment is really just going to allow us to continue to grow the business.
Okay, great.
Mitch, did you have a question?
Just getting on board. Sorry about that. Yeah, I had a similar question to Roger, but since you covered it, for me it was more the lining up of these new markets. Are they fairly similar, the kind of the partnership customer acquisition track that you're taking, or do you feel that it's going to be somewhat fragmented? Because they seem to be slightly different.
Are you talking about on the retail stuff?
Yeah, it could be on the retail side. Although I do like you guys getting embedded into a lot of other products. It's just that sales cycle is very different. And
yeah,
since you just heard us talk about customer journey, it's totally different, but could be way more lucrative.
Right. We have a lot of experience in that. So some of it is very similar. So what we're doing with, in China, it's basically the same thing we've done in Europe and Japan, working with a partner to establish a store on an e-commerce platform. The B2B2C stuff here is our existing products just being repackaged in partnerships. So that's fairly straightforward. The retail penetration is new for us. So Dina's been great in helping us with that, lining us up with retail brokers. They take typically 5%. It's definitely a longer cycle than just launching on e-commerce. But we've been very conservative in our budget planning regarding these, moving into retail. So we're starting out at the regional basis. The guys we work with who are our Amazon agency, have deep relationships with Best Buy and Target, for example. So we will access those. We're already on Walmart online. Eventually we can get into Walmart retail, but we're not doing that yet. But that's all available to us. I mean, so I think it's all very manageable. It's just all about operational execution.
I had another question, and that was around the acquisitions, the comparables that you had. Do you know what were the acquisition drivers for those acquisitions? Like, why did those acquirers buy those similar companies, and what they're doing with them afterwards?
Sorry, I'm trying to get to that slide.
No worries.
Just so you can.
Right.
I don't have like specific insights beyond, this, what's been in the press releases for these. So
Okay.
I can't give you a better answer than that. I don't have
Yeah,
specific.
and I guess my only advice to you would be to dig into that a little bit and to start to understand the potential acquirers. What are they going to do with you after they acquire, right? And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think, oh, well, I've got this revenue ramp, and they're going to buy me for that. Well, acquirers tend to want something to be strategic, especially if they're large. In how it fits into the rest of their portfolio. So just think through. My advice to you is to think a lot more about, because some of these might even be interested in you for the reasons, the differentiators that you listed against some of these other products. A lot of times acquirers will acquire a number of companies that are in that same segment. So it's just something to think about there.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice. I do want to mention, we also have B2B projects that are part of the consumer business. So these are 3 that I'm highlighting. So we're working with Bose on incorporating our microstructure technology in the Quiet Comfort 3 ear tips. So, our whole strategy was to launch our products to the consumer and validate the technology and use that to drive long-term B2B relationships. So that is moving along well with Bose. We're working with JR286. It makes the receiver gloves for Nike. So we've supplied them with enough material. They're making about 24 gloves that are going through athlete testing right now. And we've had a long-standing relationship with Pentland on working on a new swim cap that incorporates our microstructures on the inside of the swim cap to hold it in place. So all of that is upside in terms of our business model. And typically with these types of companies, we do joint development agreements, give them exclusivity in the field of use, and in exchange for having their investment support our R&D.
I love all the opportunity here. I'm just wanting to encourage you to think through from the outside in of an acquirer, where you can put in front of them, hey, we've got all of this going on, but here's a strategy for how you might position us in your larger company after you acquire us, right? So make your company more palatable, despite the fact that there's this huge buffet of opportunity. And you think, oh, well, there's a huge buffet of opportunity. Everybody loves that. It's like, but again, it goes to some of the stuff I was talking about in the presentation. Make it consumable to the acquirer. And say, and maybe even lay out, here's a couple of different ways you could go with us after you acquire us, that kind of thinking, if that makes sense.
Great. Thanks, guys. Where it wraps us up for that one. And let's move to our next one. Next is Capella with James Blackledge. James, if you could launch your slides and kick off.
All right, let's see here. Outstanding. Are you seeing my deck?
We see it now. Go ahead.
Outstanding. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. Capella Imaging, we're a clinical, well, we're actually kind of in this no man's land between preclinical and clinical. We're ready to move into the clinic, and that's why I'm talking with you today, as we're working to get the money to move into the clinic. Well, we're developing a nuclear imaging diagnostic agent that is specific for fibrin, which is part of blood clots. The founders are very deep in drug development, ranging from discovery to commercial launch, and big pharma, small startups. One of our founders is also a cardiologist with clinical practice at WashU Medical School. And our lead compound is a product we call Fibricent that we use for assessing thrombus in both chronic and acute venous and arterial situations. So thromboembolism or blood clots, it's a pretty rapidly expanding market. Heart disease is the major cause of death on the planet. It's responsible for 20% of deaths in the U.S. As a result, there are many people, a growing population of people that are experiencing heart failure. And a population of these people require some form of mechanical support, whether it be in the form of an electrical pump, a so-called ventricular assist device, or some cases with valve disease, they get prosthetic valves. The problem is all of these devices, while they cure one disease, they initiate another one. And the problem that you face with them is clotting. They all have issues with clotting, and you have to treat the patients with heavy levels of anticoagulant to prevent that. Just an aside here, sudden death is the first symptom of approximately 25% of people with pulmonary embolism, which is one of the problems that is a risk with these things. Many of these thromboemboli are difficult to diagnose, especially with things like pulmonary hypertension. In the case of ventricular assist devices or VADs, there currently are no ways to assess thrombus because it's a titanium shell. You can't image through the metal of that pump. Even if you could get through the pump, you can't put these patients in a lot of the scanners that are typically used. So our compound, fibrosint, will address all these unmet needs. So in the case of ventricular assist devices, and I typically refer to them as LVADs because the left ventricular assist, I point to my left ventricle, like you can see. the LVADs are typically the ones that are most commonly used. And it's really the most challenging situation we face. These patients are already on high levels of anticoagulant. It's a very harsh environment. You have very high flow rates, high shearing actions, and yet we're able to acquire very good images with all of these challenges. And so what you see here in this rotating image on the left, this is an LVAD, a pump that came out of a patient that came into the Washington University Medical School to have the pump exchanged. And so we take that pump and plumb it in and acquire images using fibrosint. And you can see the very bright patch there around the neck of that curved inlet is a very thick layer of blood clot that is plated out here. And this patient is at risk of having a piece of that break away and cause, a serious stroke, which is, the pumps have gotten better over years, but that is still the most single significant side effect of LVADs is fatal or debilitating stroke. And we need better tools that will allow us to evaluate not just the thrombus level in these devices, but to also assess the effectiveness of the anticoagulant treatment that's associated with them. So most drugs fail because of one of two things. It's a transition from preclinical to clinical. Either, the translation just doesn't work, and i.e., we've cured cancer in mice many times. In the case of fibrosint, one of our preclinical models is, as I showed you in the previous slide, we take these pumps that have come out of human patients. So this is a human blood clot. This was a pump that was active in a patient. And we will take those pumps and implant them in a 70-kilogram calf, which we use as a model for a human. Provides similar blood flow volume, and we acquire images with that. So from a transition of preclinical to clinical, this has been highly de-risked. The other area where drugs tend to fail is because of toxicity issues. And again, with a nuclear imaging agent, it's a little unique in drug development. The amount of material that is actually dosed with a nuclear imaging agent is just exquisitely small. And so it's far, far below any sort of pharmacologically active dose. And as a consequence, the FDA recognizes this. You're only required to do toxicology in a single species. We have done this. We have a completely clean GLP toxicology study showing that there are no complications with this drug. So again, the two highest risks in moving a drug forward into the clinic, fibrosint is very, very highly de-risked in those regards. So I said it's a growing market, just because of lifestyle choices, just general health of an aging population. But looking only, these numbers here are only looking at patients that are either potentially getting LVADs or prosthetic valves. So approximately 190,000 patients are added to this high-risk population each year. That translates into at least 380,000 images, both acute and preventative. And we based on looking at other similar products, estimate a $1,500 reimbursement per dose. So that translates into a total addressable market of about $560 million a year. And again, as I say, our initial indication is LVADs and prosthetic valves. Pulmonary embolism represents a much, much larger market that we think we can expand into. We think we can expand into a small segment of that is very, very poorly served by existing tools. And the beauty of that is once you get access to that market, it sort of makes sense as a physician. If I have the possibility that I'm going to need to follow up with a FibroSense scan anyhow, we have the potential to become the tool of first choice in that market. And then suddenly now you're looking at huge numbers. So the competitors in this space, in terms of VADs, there's nothing. It's completely unmet medical need. As I said, you're trying to measure blood clots within a titanium shell of a pump. Because we're using a nuclear imaging agent, we were able to actually acquire data through that shell, but you can't use any of the more typical MRI, ultrasound, things like this for evaluating these. In the case of prosthetic valves, our competition is the current standard of care, which typically involves a number of different imaging modalities. Typically, you have to do 2 or 3 different types of imaging to get a positive diagnosis, whereas with FibroSense, a single image would give you a positive diagnosis. Perhaps the most significant aspect of this is the ability to distinguish between what is called thrombus and pannus. Now, pannus is a fibrous growth that encompasses the leaflets of these prosthetic valves, just like thrombus does. And they look identical in the current imaging modalities, transthoracic cardiography. You're completely unable to distinguish between them, and it requires surgical intervention for you to tell if it's thrombus or pannus. And that's a critical issue because the treatments are vastly different. Our drug FibroSense could very easily distinguish between these two. Pulmonary embolism, again, current standard of care is our competition. One aspect of PE is pulmonary hypertension. Chronic pulmonary hypertension is a small part of the market, but it is notoriously difficult to diagnose. There are publications that say it takes typically 13 to 16 months to get a positive diagnosis with current methods. And so this isn't an initial indication, but we think this is an area we want to follow into to expand the market. Intellectual property, we own the rights to this. It was developed in the laboratory of one of our co-founders, Dr. Lanza, at the Washington University School of Medicine. We have the exclusive license to use it. We have made some structural improvements that we've identified for extending the patent protection in our efforts to develop a scalable GMP manufacturing process. So we have a fairly long runway on this, but our intellectual property position is solid. Our development plan timeline. So we've completed all of our IND enabling activities. We had an early investment from North Star Medical Radioisotopes. They put in $1 million to fund all of our preclinical activity, and they wanted to see us get through phase 1. They have committed to fund all of the clinical activities post phase 1 themselves, either themselves or they will bring in investors. But we are responsible for getting to the far side of phase 1. So we have a strategy where we are going to use what is called an exploratory IND, which is very common in nuclear imaging agents. We have, and I'll show you at the end, that we have a team of medical advisors that actually wrote the guidance documents for the FDA on exploratory INDs. But the beauty is this is fast and this is cheap. and it allows us to get into humans. And then once we do that, we open a full-blown IND at the phase 2 level. So we're seeking $500,000 at this point to fuel our EIND submission in phase 1 trials. Say here. So this is a $500,000 on an $11 million valuation based on the agreement, the deal we did with North Star first. And again, North Star is committed to funding all the future clinical trials. You know, this is something I think is very attractive here. We essentially have someone already that wants the product, that has agreed to fund, you know, the later stages. They're keenly interested. North Star makes, among other things, they make technetium generators. And so this is something that they view as a product that will drive the market for another one of their existing products. And they already have the existing sales force, the distribution network. They have the regulatory capabilities to support an NDA submission. And so this is a really valuable partnership we have with them. This is the development team. Is one of my oh God, I have a business mentor that told me, yeah, it's one good guy and a couple of schmucks. But this is the team that's developing Fibricent here at Capella Imaging. Myself, Dr. Lanza, who is the MD at the Washington School of Medicine, Dr. McGee, and Grace Quay, who was very, you know, played a very pivotal role in inventing the drug. I really want to stress these guys. This is our medical advisor team, and this is just a world-class group of people. Barry Siegel and Sally Schwartz are household names at the FDA in the world of nuclear medicine and molecular imaging. Sally Schwartz has actually written the guidance around exploratory INDs and is working with us to write our own exploratory IND. Dr. Ewald runs the Heart Transplant Center here at the Washington University Medical School. Dr. Zaharias is the director of the Valve Center. Dr. Schindler is an expert in PET and SPECT imaging. And so all these guys will participate in our study. And I want to say another thing that I think is important here is Drs. Ewald and Zaharias. You know, these are essentially our customers. And all of this started, the whole thing started with Dr. Ewald and Dr. Lanza saying we have an unmet need that we need to find a solution for. And that led to the development of Fibricent. Dr. Zaharias and his colleagues, once they heard about the things we were doing around LVADs, they contacted us and said, look, we've got an issue too around valves, and we think you can play a role here. So as voices of the customer, you know, these people are already telling us that this is something that is needed and is a tool that, people are looking for. So I think that's my last slide.
Great,
yeah,
thanks.
thank you.
Mitch, what's your question? We have time for one question. Mitch, what will that be?
Yeah, no, I think this having seen, you know, several of these life science medical device sort of go to market. Like, I think you guys have a lot of good things in place that answers the why you, why this, why now. I was more wanting to maybe hear from you. So the compliments on the deck, I think you hit a lot of the points that I would want to see. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think is your biggest challenge besides the funding? Because this is it might open up my next question. Like, where do you really see?
The biggest challenge, I think, is going to be patient recruitment for the first indication, LVADs, because it's likely, well, it's certainly going to be an orphan drug indication, and the LVAD market has been in a lot of flux. If you looked at it 6 years ago, people were predicting an 18% annual growth rate on this. And so it resulted in a change of the heart allocation policy. And, you know, it's God love them, I can't blame them, but the physicians started running the policy because they're advocating for their patients, and rightfully so. And so it's kind of put things in turmoil. And so I'm a little concerned about the ability to recruit patients in a timely fashion on the on the first study, on the first indication. The other thing I might point out is, if I go back to my development slide, I don't know if you can see my cursor. I'm not happy about this period between, manufacturing of GMP material.
Whole year.
That's
almost.
a year of time that's burned. Now I'm pretty confident I can move that forward 6 months by doing some arm twisting and hopefully nothing too demeaning of myself. But I'm sure I can save 6 months off of that. But in an ideal world, we would do this in parallel, but the structure of our deal makes that a challenge. So those are the things that really worry me, because we would love to go as fast as possible on this.
Great. Thanks, James, for the presentation. Thanks, Mitch, for the question. We are at the end of our hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially Stephen Williams, Roger Toennis, and Mitch Posada from Founders Advisors. We'll share the recording with everyone in the audience. So if you want to follow up with them about what they're doing, that's great. James, thanks for your presentation. Nick, thanks for yours as well. And Sean, thanks for talking about what you're doing there at Baylor. With that, we'll go ahead and close it out for today and see you guys next time. Thanks so much for having a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.